Hi there. Firstly, there's a storm raging at the moment in this part of the United Kingdom, and so I apologise in advance for any background noise. The wind and the rain outside in the trees in the garden is pretty intense. So, TV drama. In the beginning was The Shield. In the first episode, we see the cops of the strike force, led by Vic Mackey, robbing drug dealers, selling the drugs on to other drug dealers, and being totally corrupt. The captain suspects this is going on and persuades another officer, an honest officer, to go undercover. He attaches him to the strike team and to find out what they're up to and report. Now, we then expect over the next several episodes for this to manifest itself, and we see how he does it, and maybe he ends up getting tripped up on a few things or whatever. What does the captain make of it? But what actually happens is that at the end of the first episode, Vic leads a drugs raid for the strike team, including the new guy, and they end up shooting the dealer involved, and then Vic goes over to the body and he turns the dealer's gun and shoots the cop. And in the words of veteran TV critic Alan Sepinwall, TV changed forever. The Shield did that trick, which was also done in The Sopranos and in Breaking Bad, for getting you to sympathise and indeed to root for the bad guy. These guys in The Shield are corrupt, they're immoral, Vic is a cop killer, and yet we end up supporting him and hoping that the forces of justice don't actually bring him to book. And this is quite an amazing trick to pull off. And it really does make for very, very good drama. The producer of The Shield was Kurt Sutter, and he created another world of violence, crime and revenge in Sons of Anarchy. And by the way, at least 7 actors from The Shield, including I think the entire strike force, have parts, large or small, in Sons of Anarchy, and another cohort of actors came from the magnificent series Deadwood. Now, I didn't watch Sons of Anarchy when it first came out, and in fact it had been off the screen for years before a couple of good friends, Terry and Phil, was so enthused about it I decided to give it a go, and boy, I was glad I did. Even though I didn't really have any interest in motorcycles or motorcycle gangs and knew very little about them, I was very quickly, within minutes of the first episode, being drawn in and totally engrossed in what was going on. So the Sons of Anarchy, or Sam Crow, Sons of Anarchy Motorcycle Club Redwood Original, is based in a small town called Charming in Northern California, and this town has a death rate like Beirut. I'll just go over some of the main characters and the cast. We have Clay Moreau, played by the very imposing, physically imposing Ron Perlman, ideal in the part, totally convincing as the president of a motorcycle club, what's usually known as an outlaw motorcycle club. he very much wants to preserve his position. Now, I've only just really thought of this while I was putting these notes together. He is very much analogous to Vic Mackey, where he preaches group loyalty to the strike force in the case of Vic, and to the Sons of Anarchy in the case of Clay. But in the end, he will do anything to keep his position, and he really uses betrayal, as did Vic. Vic ends up betraying most of the guys to save his own skin. So he is married to Gemma, played by Katie Segal, who was well known as a singer, particularly country and western songs. Fantastic voice, and in fact she sings one of the songs that finishes one of the episodes, a version of To Say With Love, which is a song I've always liked. Does it really, really well. The only other time I'd seen her act previous to this was she played Penny's mother in an episode of The Big Bang Theory, a totally different part. In this, as Gemma, she, as I said, is married to Clay, and she is the matriarch of the whole setup, and very much the mother lioness, protecting her cubs, protecting the pride, and so on. She is so devious. She is one of the most glorious, devious Machiavellian female characters on TV, and the actress carries it off magnificently, totally convincing and awe-inspiring to watch. She was previously married to John Teller, who was the guy who founded Sons of Anarchy, and he was killed in what appeared to be a motorcycle accident. So she married Clay, but she had the son from the marriage to John Teller, who is Jackson, known as Jax, and he is played by Charlie Hunnam, who is a young English actor, and I actually saw him in a subsequent role in Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman. He was really good in that, but when I saw him in Sons of Anarchy, I just realised what a great actor he was, and totally convincing in the role. His mannerisms, you would think he was American, for example. The physicality he needed to display, and he is the central character. He is the pivot of the story, and it's really his story. And he finds out what his father's vision for the club was, and it's at odds with what's going on at the moment, which makes for drama. Early on in the first series, his high school sweetheart, Tara, played by Maggie Stiff, who I knew from Billions, has returned to Charming. She'd left to pursue a career in medicine. She qualifies as a doctor, and comes back to Charming for reasons which become clear. And they resume their relationship, even though Jax has been married or is in a relationship with a girl who has a bad drug problem, and in the first episode or so bears him his son. So there's a bit of a triangle, and family tensions and so on. Now, a continuing theme in Sons of Anarchy is the role of corrupt law enforcement. And in this first series, the reason Tara has come back to Charming is to escape from a relationship she had with an FBI agent who has become a stalker, a very serious stalker, and that provides a lot of the tension in the first series. And then in subsequent series there's a female ATF agent played by named Stahl, who is absolutely scheming, is as corrupt as the people she's going after, and she provides an awful lot of very, very entertaining tension, and gets a lot of the characters into seemingly inescapable situations. And then there's a prosecutor in a later series who similarly wants to nail the gang and will use any tool at his disposal to do it. So there were 7 series altogether, and the plots mainly involve deals with gangs or rivalry with other motorcycle gangs or criminal gangs, or there's an ongoing dispute with some neo-Nazis and so on, and turns charming into a bloodbath, and there's a lot of death, a lot of violence. In fact, the violence is off the chart. In the first series alone, a paedophile is castrated, and a guy who has been thrown out of the gang, and when you're thrown out, your gang tattoo, which they have as a full back tattoo of the club logo, has to be inked over, and they find out that he hasn't done this, so they grab him and give him the ultimatum. It can be burnt off with a blowtorch, or it can be sliced off with a blade, and he opts for the blowtorch, and it's not for the squeamish. So that's just in the first series, and there's things like one of the guys has his daughter burnt alive in a pit in front of him by a rival gang, and as I say, the violence is mind-blowing. Some TV dramas are very predictable. They're written to a formula, and you can often see the same plots. I used to watch 2 separate medical dramas, and they were recycling the same plots, same illnesses quite a lot. It's very predictable. Sons of Anarchy is not like that. It's full of shocks, it's full of twists, it's full of surprises, jaw-droppingly so. It actually caused me to shout at the screen on occasion in surprise. I couldn't believe some of the things they did. It's amazing. Many of the scenes are set in prison. Some of the members are picked up occasionally. But there's one in particular, Otto, who is played by Kurt Sutter, who is the creator of the series, who is doing a long-term sentence, and some of the scenes involving him over the whole arc of the series are absolutely off the chart. In a series which the level of violence is high, the scenes involving Otto are just astounding. The only plot weakness, and some people have disputed this with me, but I think it is, one of the main things, and particularly series 3 covers this, is that one of their businesses is the IRA smuggles weapons, mainly automatic weapons, particularly the AK-47s, into the United States for the gang, and the Sons of Anarchy then distribute them to Russian organised crime, and that's one of their big income streams. Now, it seems to me that buying Russian weapons from Ireland, smuggling them in, and then selling them at a profit to Russian organised crime, when the Russians have produced the weapons in the first place, and they surely have their own methods of smuggling them into the United States, their own contacts back in the Eastern Bloc, their own pipeline for bringing this stuff in, I would have thought. But, I don't know much about criminal gangs and how they operate. But it just seemed to me to be implausible. But it did make for good TV. I can't cover all the members of the club, but there's some outstanding. Every one of them is memorable, and some of them kind of fall from grace, but manage to redeem themselves in various ways. And again, we're rooting for them within the whole situation. But really terrific performances, and totally convincing in the parts they're playing. There are a number of guest stars, and Charlie Hunnam, playing Jax, has to play against some serious acting talent, and it's a mark of his ability in that he performs brilliantly, alongside such outstanding guest stars as Jimmy Smits, who's been in so many different series, and he's always that top value. Peter Robocop Weller, Robert Terminator 2 Patrick, Danny Trejo, and the great Walton Goggins, who was in The Shield and Justified and many others, as you've never seen him before. And I won't spoil that for you. And there's a couple of cameos, people not known for acting, but acting this. Notably, we have Stephen King, the novelist, and Marilyn Manson, the musician. Stephen King plays like what's usually known as a cleaner, who comes up and gets rid of bodies and things, and Marilyn Manson is a gang leader in prison. So, just some final thoughts. TV dramas, as I say, they can be very formulaic, and they can range from the mundane to the absurd. But at best it provides thought-provoking entertainment which keeps you hooked. Amongst this category, the best, there are series which stand out head and shoulders above the rest, and Sons of Anarchy is one of the best dramas I've seen. I avoided it for years. As I say, I had no interest in motorcycle culture, and I was wrong, because this world provides all the elements for one of the most violent, shocking, unpredictable and enjoyable pieces of television ever produced. If you haven't seen it yet, do yourself a favour.